cleanup duty here against another Delver deck. He's beaten so many over his time playing Miracles.
Countless Delver decks strewn left and right.
Yeah, I mean, you can't win as many matches as Joe has. I mean, with how popular Delver is, it's just not possible. So we're going to see if he can do it again here. As you did mention, though, he will be on the draw to start things off, as he is our number 3 overall seed. William, our 2.
So far, matches more or less progressing by seeding 1, 2, and 3 still left in the tournament.
Yep. Only 1. Our 4 got ousted by our 5. Ben Friedman got some work done, so a little bit of an underdog approach there. Joe's Miracles deck, again, some slight changes, as we've discussed today. You know, normally it's 3 Vendilion Clicks, a Venser, and a Snapcaster. He's cut the Snapcaster mage. He has 2 relics in his main deck. Couple of changes, nothing major. He does have a Dig Through Time in his deck too this weekend, so we'll see if those cards do come up here in this match against William.
Yeah, and the relics were more for this style of matchup. I think he wanted a hate card that he could play in the main and actually had good value against a Treasure Cruise deck. And in this matchup, a lot of times you'll see him actually just tap the Relic of Progenitus as opposed to cracking it right away.
In other matches, we've seen Joe blow it right away, like when we watched him play against lands.
Right.
Looks like Joe's going to take a mulligan here, not happy with what he's looking at.
Remember, Will Parshall's deck only plays 6 lands that produce mana. 3 Volcanic Island, 2 Island, 1 Mountain.
And then all those fetches.
10 fetch lands.
Yep. 16 mana. I know Tom Martell said if he could do the Grand Prix all over again, he would have played 15 lands.
Wanting even fewer. And you know a lot of these decks are low to the ground when they start playing more fetch lands than targets. You know, decks that do that are things like Delver, Elves, whereas then you get Joe Lossett's deck, a deck interested in a lot of lands. He's on the other side, a lot more mana producers than fetch lands. But you're right, on the play here, there's a lot of starts that can be threatening for Joe. So what he's looking for in this matchup is some early removal. He can't get run over by Delver of Secrets and Monastery Swift Spear. He has to be able to answer Young Pyromancer. Now he does have things like Terminus, Swords to Plowshares, to help him get to that spot.
Green light's given. William Parshall. Where are you going to start things off, my friend? He's got a Force Will in his hand.
Yeah, Force of Will, Brainstorm, a set of lands. See if he has a threat in his opener. Now with Fetch Land and Brainstorm, it's still fine to not. Yeah, it looks like 4 lands, Daze, Force of Will, Brainstorm.
There's a Plains for Lossett and a Relic. Normally when you see Joe play
an artifact on turn 1.
Yeah, I'm just assuming it's a top, but he actually has a couple.
I was right to say Divining Top.
Yeah.
And he plays a Relic.
It's a Relic of Progenitus. Okay, all right. That's a new one, but a goodie.
That will get a lot of value. That'll really hurt the Treasure Cruises in William's deck.
I think Parshall's actually considering maybe a Brainstorm here, and he's actually going to cast one, so perhaps he's scared of that, as a couple of cards going to be added here. A Delver of Secrets, a Monastery Swift Spear, and a land. And a couple
Gosh,
cards
Brainstorm's
go back.
good.
It's fine.
His hand is 4 lands. Let's just recap. 4 lands, Daze, Force of Will, Brainstorm. You're in an aggro deck. Like, what is that hand doing? And you're like, well, oh, just kidding. We have Delver, Monastery, Swift Spear, and we're going to put some of these lands back and shuffle them away. So is that okay?
Easy keep.
Gosh.
I'm going to remove Brainstorm with the Relic. Blue to Delta's the draw.
And here you go. It's just... What'll be interesting to see is whether or not he plays the Delver here with a guaranteed... If he has a guaranteed flip. I think he's just playing both creatures.
Well, we're going to start with the Swift Spear. That's the easy part.
Absolutely.
In for onesie. Push it down to 19.
Will left a land on top of his deck. I don't know if he wants land 4. I can't imagine he does.
Yeah, I like cracking here, just playing Delver and moving on. I mean, you're clearly hoping the Terminus doesn't show up, but I think he's got a Daze in his hand anyway, along with that Force of Will, so he should be all right.
Yeah, he has himself covered, protected against a lot of sweepers here. We should see just how much work Relic does. This can be a bit of a beating.
No, I like the inclusion a lot.
Yeah, I mean, this situation is exactly when he would want it.
Yep. There's a Delver.
Threats deployed. What is Lossett's removal suite?
Not a Terminus for the draw. We know that. There's a Flooded Strand. Joe says, get that Delta out of here right now. You're not even going to get close to Treasure Cruising against me.
So Relic of Progenitus exiles the card. It lets Will choose which card to exile, which basically means Joe will tap Relic immediately whenever it untaps.
Yep.
It's not actually as, there's no timing to be had with the card.
Volcanic Island going to come in.
See Jace the Mind Sculptor in Joe's hand. That's a eventual target to build up to, but hopefully he has things in the meantime.
One of the nice things in this matchup, too, for Joe, and this goes against most blue-red Delver decks, but especially this one once you have the deck list, is he can search up non-basic lands aggressively. Doesn't have to worry about Wasteland or a card like Price of Progress.
There is one. Yep.
There is one.
And it looks like Joe's hand is a pair of Brainstorms, a Counterspell, Jace the Mind Sculptor, and so he's going to burn one of the counterspells, play a Volcanic Island, and it looks like he gets to find some Swords to Plowshares, which are really much needed in the situation.
Yep. Couple cards going to go back here. Wouldn't be surprised if he was trying to set up a Terminus here, if he was able to draw into one, put it back with the Brainstorm, all that good stuff. But the shields are down here. The window's open for Joe to cast a Brainstorm, pass the turn back. We'll see if Delver does flip. Trigger. Yep. Treasure Cruise.
Well, good news and bad news. Good news is it flips the Delver. Bad news is that Relic of Progenitus is going to make this card almost uncastable.
Yeah, that's the big plan here for Joe. You also you think about his Wrath effect. Terminus, it puts the cards on the bottom, not in the graveyard.
Yeah.
Just something to keep in mind.
To be fair, one more piece of good news. It still pitches to Force of Will.
Yep. 4 points of damage are going to come across here.
And
That's going to untap and take a draw.
discipline on Joe's side. You saw he had Swords to Plowshares there. Just not going to play it into a daze.
Oh, Joe's not getting dazed. Yeah,
He'll take damage before he gets dazed.
He's not getting dazed. Who are we kidding?
And patience is rewarded here. Swords with 2 mana up, ready to even pay for a card like a Spell Pierce. Spell Pierce not in the main of the blue-red Delver deck.
Also sorting on his turn and not his opponent's turn. I know it's an instant, but you can cast an instant as a sorcery on your own turn.
Yeah. You can play it during both turns. It's very versatile.
Because if William were to protect his monster, his Swift Spear, like if he protected his Delver, his Swift Spear would get bigger. If he cast a counter spell on that Swords of Plowshare, so you want to main phase it, which Lossett does know and did do.
And so right now, Joe missed a land drop. That's much as good for Parshall. But Will doesn't have much of a source of damage. He has a 1/2 Monastery Swift Spear here. So yeah, it's a clock. Yeah, he's progressing. He's making his way toward winning, but it's not very quick, and it's going to give Joe a lot of time to come back here. And time is exactly what Joe wants here.
Going to cast a Brainstorm. A couple cards are going to go back. Looks like Jace the Mind Sculptor and Vendilion Click are the cards Joe's going to send away. So his Brainstorm is done resolving. He'll untap, draw a card. There's the 4th land. Scalding Tarn will let him sacrifice and clear his deck if he'd like. You see the Spell Pierce in his hand. He also has another copy of Brainstorm.
Yeah, and Joe's just, sequencing with the end-of-step Brainstorm, just making sure he hits his land drops. He's buying himself plenty of time. He'll take 1 damage for a while here, and it'll be just fine for him. Will's not chaining together cards like Ponder, like Brainstorm, to actually get real damage in with the Swift Spear. He doesn't have a young Pyromancer. There's not enough pressure to force Joe into making a move.
Mark Koenig up a game here over Ben Friedman. Death and Taxes up a game over Jessica Stoneblade. Could be a battle of streamers in the finals.
Yeah, Joe Lossett and Mark Koenig, both pretty good followings with their streams, respectively. Joe streaming Miracles often on stream.
Yeah, we're on Twitch.tv. They're on Twitch.tv. Look, this is how things break sometimes, okay? We didn't draw it up this way. We promise. Joe going to search up an island here. He does not want to draw Jace next turn. Don't know if he's going to crack his Relic ever, honestly, especially when you know the opponent has Treasure Cruise.
I would not want to do that. No, he doesn't need a card. That's the thing.
There's a V-click.
Yeah, take a look at Will's hand. It may even get a double daze or a Force of Will here out of Will's hand. Maybe he hard casts a Force of Will here. He does have 5 lands.
Blech. I mean, I don't hate it, but there's days.
Looks like he's going to use both dazes here.
Yep. Pay it. And I think if you're Joe, you're fine with this exchange. Like, if he gets 2 dazes out of his hand,
great.
That's great.
What it does do is actually, if Will can play all these cards quickly, a daze, then another daze, and then crack a Scalding Tarn, he may be able to get enough mana to cast his Treasure Cruise before Joe gets them all with the Relic.
Yep. But Joe's already right on top of it.
I was a little surprised to see him. That was on Will's end step. Never mind. So he doesn't win that fight.
Nope. And I don't think Joe really cares if he loses that fight.
Yeah. Now he got a 2-for-1. There's no pressure here. So he can convert his 2-for-1s. He can keep making land drops. He can set up for things like Counterspell.
There's a Brainstorm.
And things look to be, this game looks to be going Joe's way.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting there. Yeah, if he can get that creature off the table, because you can see his hand. He hasn't found a Terminus yet, though he did just find a copy of Sensei's Divining Top, so those are probably pretty appealing.
Yeah, you look at the cards. He has a Pyroblast, a Divining Top, a Spell Pierce, a Counterspell. Yeah, he doesn't have an answer yet for the Swift Spear, but Will's not going to get anything else on the board.
There's Counterbalance.
All right, and will he get Will's last cards off this?
It's Force of Will and Treasure Cruise over there, along with the land that he picked up for days. And the answer is yes.
Joe would have liked to have had that counterbalance, but he'll take another 2-for-1.
Yep. Just grinding him down. And now he knows the coast is clear for top. Doesn't have to play around days because he knows the card in William's hand is the island from the previous days. So that's in there. Well, let's see what the worst is that can happen. Not a bad draw there, actually, for Parshall. It's a copy of Ponder. He'll cast that Trigger Prowess on Swift Spear.
Yeah, and this Ponder is something Will really would have liked to have had earlier before Joe could have set up this Divining Top. That said, he's got Joe down to 11, and the Blue-Red Delver can push a lot of damage out of nowhere.
Bolt among the cards. We'll draw a card. It's a Brainstorm now. That's not so bad.
Yeah, and some props here to Will for having picked up, well, on how he played that days, he picked up one of his lands, and now he gets to Brainstorm it away. So it's almost like turning your land into a different card, almost Horizon Canopying it. Had he picked up both his lands today's, actually, he may be able to get rid of all the lands here, which could have been good too.
Yeah, it's kind of unique how you can do that in this matchup.
Yeah, you pick up your lands off days, and you Brainstorm them away, and you're like, wait, that's like you just drew 3 cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why Brainstorm's one of the better cards in Legacy.
Let's see what this is going to be. Perhaps a Delver?
Looks like Swift Spear's up to 3-4 for the turn.
He's going to cast a Probe, so it's going to go up to a 4-5. The Grip, but top, and a Pierce.
Yeah, I'm surprised he paid mana for the Jataxian Probe. Not because he he just doesn't need his life points. Not because he needed the mana. I mean, he probably didn't. Does he want to draw off the top of his deck, or was he going to crack first?
Yeah, no, he's just going to draw now, so.
At least one of the cards is something he wanted.
There's an attack for 4. Joe's down to 7.
Will does know the next card on his deck. I believe it's a land, which he doesn't want.
Yeah, so go Crack-a-Lackin' and dig a land out of his deck.
And Joe without a Terminus means that Will still has a chance here. 7's a low number.
Yeah, because now the game can turn into something about like running lightning bolts or Price of Progress, stuff like that. I mean, Price is only dealing 2 points of damage right now. You see the Volcanic Island in play, but it can turn into a burnout game. You can also just turn into I have a Delver Secrets that flips and a Monastery Swift Spear, and I'll take care of you that way too. It's definitely an option. So there's the Delver. Top card of the deck's a mystery right now, so we head back Lossett's way. But I don't think this is a miracle. Nope.
So Joe needs to find some more removal. He may be under enough pressure now that he has to crack that relic.
Gonna spin top first. Venser among the cards.
Venser's interesting. It's usually pretty good here. He doesn't have the land to make it ambush one of these creatures, and Venser also doesn't do a great job at ambushing Monastery Swift Spear. So while it is among some of the better cards he could have, I'm not sure he has time to Venser, Will. Certainly isn't the card he takes.
Another top. Or he's got the... well, Blast is okay.
Yeah, he needs removal spells here. That guy certainly can't be flipping. So he's got Will back down to just a lone Monastery Swift Spear. Joe's hand, nothing impressive. It's another Divining Top and a Spell Pierce. Pierce really not that strong right here.
Nah, Pierce's effectiveness is gone. It's almost like it's just Brainstorm or Force of Will fodder now. Though Joe is going to sacrifice the relic, clean up the graveyards again. He's done a really, really nice job of keeping Williams super far away from Treasure Cruise. So the inclusion of relic is nice in this deck. Also, you'll note that Relic in this deck, you can draw a card on your opponent's turn for your miracles. So that's why that's the graveyard removal spell of choice as opposed to a card like Tormod's Crypt.
Now he's just to see if can Joe hang on and can Will hang on and deal those last points of damage. He's got a second Swift Spear. A lightning bolt here would be lethal.
Doesn't have it. Oh my, he actually did. Jeez.
Yeah, and that's it. That's 3 damage to Joe. Puts him down to 4. Pumps both the Swift Spears. That's 4 damage.
2, 4. That's
7.
Oh, that's Exactsies.
Joe has a Spell Pierce, but Will can pay.
The top card of Joe's deck would. I mean, he'd have to.
Have Terminus and flip
He'd have
it.
to. Well, no, he'd have to spin in two Force of Will. That's what would have to happen. Yeah, and he can't do it. So, wow, William Parshall's going to win game number 1 here over Joe Lossett. I think Joe could have actually spun the top because one of the cards is a mystery.
Down. Yeah,
one of the cards is actually a mystery there. But either way, Will does win game number 1 here with Delver over Miracles as we come back to the booth. It is trivia time. I have the rules. They're simple. Get the hashtag out there, hashtag SCG Premium. Well, that's the winner at the conclusion of our semifinal round for this 6-month giveaway. And of course, all contests and giveaways here on SCG Live are the sole discretion of Star City Games. No contests and giveaways are affiliated with Twitch.tv, though we do thank them for allowing us to broadcast on their fantastic network.
All right, so question, we're going to go to the winner of game 1. This is Will Parshall's deck. Mostly 4-ofs in a blue-red Delver deck. We're looking for a 1-of in it. This is a burn spell. You often see the card in burn. It's an uncommon from, I believe, Exodus.
I think that's actually correct.
All right, so if you believe you know this card, like I said, sometimes you play in blue-red Delver, but it's really mostly a burn card. Tweet the answer, that card's name. Make sure you have the hashtag SCG Premium. You have until the end of the round to submit your answers.
It's pretty simple, we promise. Patrick Sullivan loves this card, so that's just a dead giveaway for you guys. So we're going to head back down to the match, take a look at the sideboards here. Again, William Parshall up a game over Lossett. For Lossett's side, he's got a Pithing Needle, a Venser, a Jace, 2 copies of Pyroclasm, 2 Red Blast, 1 Hydro Blast, a Wear Tear. We saw that be very effective for him against the lands. A Counterspell, a Containment Priest, 2 Flusterstorm, and the big fella, 2 Baneslayer Angels.
Well, let's start out by blasting away. Whether it's red or blue, they're going to be great against Delver. You need to get your curve lower to the ground, and Joe's deck's great at doing that. Outside of that, he has some Pyroclasms. Those are pretty excellent here. They deal with nearly all of Will's creatures. They don't always take care of Monastery Swift Spear, but Young Pyromancer, Delver of Secrets, get him off the table. Imagine he'll board all of those in. I don't know about Baneslayer.
It's coming in. It's coming in. It's coming in. It has to. What do you think? What are those there for?
I mean, if it resolves, which is
it's game over. It's game over. That thing's coming in. I want to see it come in. Joe's killed a lot of people with that card for the sideboard. Other side,
5 drops against Delver.
I mean, he didn't even get to 5 land that game, by the way.
No.
2 cages, a needle, 2 sulfuric vortex, 2 electrickery, a flusterstorm, 2 hydroblast, 2 pyroblast, 2 smash smithereens, and a copy of Shattering Spree. Needle is super obvious to bring in here just because it's touched down top, and I like a pyroblast.
Yeah, blasts from both sides seem great. I would like the pyroblasts. Don't like the hydroblasts here. It's interesting. You almost could to fight the blast versus blast war, but he needs to be more proactive than that. So you're right. Needles, pyroblasts. Outside of that, what are your thoughts on Sulfuric Vortex in this matchup?
I don't think it's bad. I think it's all right. I think it's part of like a supplemental plan, I suppose. It's probably better than I think. You know, it's got some nice effects in this matchup. You know, just dealing the damage and, you know, the way that we watched that game, Joe was just trying to stabilize the entire time. And he wasn't able to get there. You know, the Lightning Bolt and the Swift Spear were able to do the last points of damage. And I think if that's the way the games play out, right, where it's just Joe trying to hang on the entire time, well, then maybe Sulfuric Vortex is pretty good. As you can see, people are clapping behind. It's the European contingent behind Joe Lossett there. It looks like Mark did win. I don't think they'd be clapping otherwise.
Yeah, Ben Friedman's deck, very close. Stoneblade making it to the top 4, but it's not going to be in the finals. Mark Koenig continuing his run. No ties, no losses. He's in the finals.
Here's the thing. Why lose when you can win?
So here's a question. He's 2-0'd both his rounds here. Has he dropped a game today?
That's actually a legit question.
The answer could be no.
Yeah, that's a legit question. And Death and Taxes is a big deck in Europe. He's playing Death and Taxes, really nice version too. I like the build of his deck. I also like just, you know, the look of his deck. Really nice cards in it. He's clearly been playing the deck for some time. And to see this result from him, number 1 overall seed, doing battle here, not much of a surprise if you know who he is.
Yeah.
Skilled with the deck.
Making the trip over from Denmark, Mark Koenig. It's up before the streamer Bara on Modo,
Yeah.
on MTGO, and on Twitch.tv.
So we could have a little stream battle if Joe's able to come back here.
Also, I like the t-shirt. It's a giant boo from Mario. That's it. There's no explanation. No, just a real big boo.
Well, you were saying that as though an explanation is necessary, which I just don't think there is.
Well, I like the idea of wearing that, and then you're going to encounter someone who never, like someone older who never played Mario, and they're just going to be like, that sure is a ghost on your shirt. And you're like, yep.
Yeah, if someone mentions it and they don't know what it is, I don't want to be friends with that person.
Yeah, but then you just don't even explain it,
No, absolutely. There's a ghost in your shirt. You're right, there is. Or maybe I would just say boo to them and then walk away.
Boo.
That's it.
Well, no, what you can do is you got to stand real still when they look at you, and then when they stop looking at you, then you can start moving.
Then I can start moving again? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Perhaps cover my eyes.
Yeah. You close your eyes and just stand real still when they look that way.
Delver of Secrets is going to start things up here. Joe with a flooded strand.
And once again, we have this time we have Joe on the play. Will does have a turn 1 Delver. And lands always seem to be pretty key in the early game from the Miracles side of this matchup. If he just, and this is something I always remember with the Teamer Delver matchup of Miracles, is that he just had to dodge things like Stifles and Wastelands early on. If he just, made basics for a couple turns, made it to 3, played a Swords to Plowshares, made it to 4, maybe played a Counterspell, usually things were fine for Miracles. And because of that, I actually really like how this Blue-Red Delver matchup is shaped up. I mean, they don't play Stifle. They don't play Wasteland. It's a lot easier for Joe to put that game plan together.
Yeah, no, that's what I liked about it, too. There's a daze. See you later, Counterbalance.
Yeah, but this game's going to be a little bit tougher. Joe would love to have the ability to just play around Daze all game. Unfortunately, he got an important card snagged by Daze. It was calculated risk.
Delver, no flips.
Yeah, looks like just a mountain.
Yeah, boring. Just an attack for 1 soon. The thing is, though, a Delver game, just play Delver, flip it, protect it, beat you down. That's not how you beat Miracles most times. It's happened to Joe before, but it's very rare, especially when he's boarding in, blasts that can kill Delver, and he already has Swords and some blasts in the main deck. It is very unlikely for that to get the job done. You see Ponder's going to be cast here.
What I do like about this game from Will Parshall is the hand he's kept. It plays a pretty good control game. You see he has Pyroblast in his hand alongside Treasure Cruise. He can protect this Delver for a while. Now, the one thing that may hurt him here, however, is that the reason Joe ran his Counterbalance out into that Daze, I believe Joe has another Counterbalance to go for next turn. And it is hard to play a control game against a Counterbalance. Joe would have maybe 1 turn to, Will could try to Pyroblast a Counterbalance if it resolves. Joe would have to blind flip to get it, but if he does, Counterbalance is quite good against the Delver strategy.
Will going to shuffle with the Ponder here, so mystery card coming here for him. Won't have his Delver set up the way he wants it to either. He did think for a minute about if he wanted to do that with Ponder and decided, yeah, will do.
Yeah, there's a cost, to keeping them on top. Maybe he didn't see the second land that he wanted. Maybe he saw land 2, but nothing more. Flipping the Delver is nice, but there's a price you have to pay if the cards are not what you want.
So Ponder's done resolving.
See 3 lands in his hand. So Wooded Foothills, Island, Mountain, Treasure Cruise, Brainstorm, Pyroblast. A little bit of a weaker hand, but Brainstorm solves all that.
I guess Joe didn't care too much about the first Counterbalance being countered. He's going to play a second one. That's going to resolve. Let's see if Delver flips this time. Huh?
It does not.
Another land. Ugh.
Someone get a Brainstorm in here. It's too many, way too many lands.
Yeah. Brainstorm. I would just Brainstorm, put 2 lands back already, and then just look at the other 3 cards.
Do you try to Pyroblast the Counterbalance first? This is your shot, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is your opportunity to do that, so I can see that.
I think Joe might have a 3rd Counterbalance. Just, don't fight counters. Just run it out the old way. I'll just keep drawing these things.
Time to draw a card, so no Pyroblast at all.
Just a swing.
Make sure life totals are correct here. And Joe's at 16 right now. He has a Brainstorm in his hand. He might be casting here. The third counterbalance is accurate. You can see it. Pyroblast too, so he has an answer for the Delver whenever he wants to cash in.
You see such patience with Joe in these matchups. You know, you saw this before with Monastery Swift Spear last game. As long as Joe's just taking one, he'll just play some lands and say go.
Yep.
Extract every bit of value he can out of cards like Counterbalance.
He's got a couple copies of Terminus in hand too, so we're flipping. That's a Force of Will. That's going to flip, but the trigger's still on, and he'll let him add the Force of Will to his hand. Okay.
I was a little bit surprised there. I somewhat expected Joe to Pyroblast the Delver in response.
Me too. There's Wooded Foothills. So that's the fetch line for the Brainstorm. Yeah.
Tough situation for Will. You know, how many do you want to cast spells into this Counterbalance?
Now Joe's going to Brainstorm. Thumbs up, 3 cards.
And what I actually would like here, and this is a play that Will can make, is you almost expected that Joe didn't play a land last turn, right? If Joe has a land in these top 3, he'd put a land on top of his deck. So after this resolution, but before Joe untaps, if Will wants to Pyroblast the Counterbalance, this would be an excellent window to do it. There's a very good chance there's a 0 on top of Joe's deck.
Yeah, there's Terminus.
Or a 6.
Yeah. Not too surprised by that. Joe wants to make sure that he can pay the Miracle Trigger. Now, he may sacrifice Arid Mesa to do so, or he'll pay it with the Tundra. Yeah, he's just saying, Miracle Trigger's on the stack. Are you going to stifle this? Yes, no, maybe so. And if not, then he'll pay it.
Yeah, no stifles in his list, so... And that's pretty common.
Yeah, we're away from a stifle metagame now.
He went into a Treasure Cruise Jataxian Probe metagame instead.
William is giving this some thought. Brainstorm.
How much does Joe want to fight here? He knows the top card of his deck, so he knows whether or not he can get a free Counterbalance off it. Answer's clearly no.
Swift Spear, Brainstorm, and Young Pyromancer are the cards added. Get these 2 lands out of here.
It's interesting. Will has not placed too much of a high priority on this Counterbalance, which I'll leave it to him here. You know, he's made it to the top 4 so far. It seems like it would be good. There's something he has to get rid of, but maybe he can just win through it.
There's the payment and the resolution. So, no problem there.
He's going to draw it next game. It's going to be the wrong way around.
Yeah.
Just want to point that one out. That's okay. It's not illegal.
Yeah, it comes flipped. Thanks.
I've done that before, and I've drawn it when it was flipped. And then I really want to turn it around, but it's in my hand, and I can't turn it around because if I do, they'll know what the card is. So I just have to look at it and be like, oh, this card doesn't have a mana cost. How do I play this?
It's free.
Yeah, I'll just drop it, right?
Sacrifice the Wooded Foothills.
I don't know why anyone would play the other side of this card. This one seems better.
Aha!
There we go.
There it is.
Good man. All right, now we can draw the 1/1 again.
There's Volcanic Island. So one of those left in his deck. Plays 3 copies.
Yep. Like I said, just 6 mana producers. Which is okay. Lossett doesn't wasteland anybody.
Yeah.
That becomes a lot more problematic against someone like Mark Koenig who wants to port and wasteland you.
And he's waiting in the finals for one of these 2 with his Death and Taxes deck.
It's scary when your opponent has more land destruction in your deck than you have lands. That's never a great place to be.
Delver Secret's the draw. How are we going to lead off? It's a 2-mana spell. Young Pyromancer. There's a Counterbalance out there. Will Joe trigger it is the question.
Well, Joe's had it in play when Will's played a few different spells, and so far, none of them. He hasn't turned over a single card to it.
Looks like Joe's going to cast a Brainstorm in response. See if this resolves.
Yeah, can he put a 2 on top? I don't believe he has a 2 in his hand.
Parshall looking at a Pyroblast here.
And it's interesting. So he's choosing his fight over... He's choosing over the Counterbalance. That's a little surprising because if... Joe could get all of the spells here. He could flip a 1, then he could brainstorm into a 2. And this worked out excellently for Will.
2, 3. If he remembers the trigger, yeah. Oh, no. It's on the
Yeah. Young Pyromancer still on the stack. Originally, Joe was going to try to set up a 2 on top of his deck here. He had a counterbalance in hand. However, with no counterbalance in play, well, probably the Young Pyromancer will resolve here.
See light totals here, 13 and 19 in favor of Parshall at this point. He's just trying to rebuild a board to get to work again.
So what I like about Parshall's play there is very aggressive. So if you think about it, you could wait until Joe puts a 2 on top, shows you the 2, and you could be like, all right, I lose my Pyromancer, Pyroblast your counterbalance, whatever, we start over. But what Will said is, you know, I don't think you have a 2 or a 1 on top, and I don't want to lose either of my cards. I want to get your counterbalance and my Young Pyromancer. And if everything works out for him, then it's great.
The counterbalance trigger that was already on the stack is going to take care of the Young Pyromancer, as you still have to resolve that thing, even though counterbalance isn't in play anymore. So that's gone for good. Now Joe's going to sacrifice his Arid Mesa. He doesn't want to draw the counterspell or the Terminus that he put back, so he's going to search for land and shuffle those things away, and going down to 12 in the process. That's a Tundra. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, it is.
Deciding how. There's an option to find red mana there.
The struggle is real, shuffling the deck for Joe. Now he's ready.
William, easier job of shuffling it.
See what Joe's draw is going to be here now. Mystery card coming.
Full grip here. He has kept the board clean of threats.
Well, the way that he stopped,
Might be a miracle.
yeah, I mean, it leads me to believe it's in treat, right? Yeah, okay.
Doesn't want 1/4/4. He'll just put that back, draw it at a later date. And number for the 3rd time this game.
Counterbalance.
Counterbalance.
Yeah, he thought maybe he might shift gears there, because a 4/4 is really good against him. There's a Force of Will.
Will's going to fight over this. It's a dangerous fight to have. It's into
Yeah.
Joe's open mana.
And I love fighting back here, because basically what this is saying is, if you care this much about my counterbalance, that you're going to forcible and remove a card, I'll fight back with 1 card.
Yeah.
I mean, pitch Delver's Secrets, which is, it's losing its usefulness as we go here.
Well, Will needs some threats. Pitching a threat is, I mean, the danger is right if you keep Delver and counterbalance resolves, well, maybe you don't get anything out of the Delver.
Plus, I'd rather pitch a blue threat that can die to the red blast effects than a red threat. Well, obviously you can't pitch a red threat, but I would rather put a high priority on a red threat in this matchup.
Yeah.
Trigger, dead.
Dead to Divining Top, which is a lot worse.
Yeah, dead.
All of Will's answers to counterbalance cost 1. So now that Joe has that Divining Top on top of his deck and a counterbalance in play, things get real ugly.
Treasure Cruise. Gonna delve a bunch of cards away.
Is he going to counter it with Dig Through Time? I have been waiting to see this happen.
We're not there yet. One day.
I want to see an 8 counter an 8. Nope, it's going to get 3. And I mean, it's probably correct, even if Joe has a Dig Through Time, to not put it on top, because you have counter top, and Will has no creatures in play. What are you scared of?
Yeah.
Let him have some cards. Let him have lots of cards.
I mean, he can't play a 1-mana spell, and soon. Well, I mean, he can't play a 1-mana spell that turn because Top's on top, and he won't be able to play a 1-mana spell moving forward because Top's about to come into play right now.
Once you get that countertop lock going, I mean, his whole deck is on 1 and 2.
Yep. 1, 2, and 8.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because the 8 doesn't even matter because you can let him have all the 8s because all he draws is our 1s and 2s.
Yep.
He has 2 copies of Sulfuric Vortex, so there exist some 3s.
You can see William's hand right now. 2 Brainstorms, a Bolt, and a Monastery Swift Spear.
Oh, the dig was in his hand, so I couldn't counter it. Okay. So.
Poor guy, you.
I mean, it's just one of those things, right? How many times have you seen an 8 counter an 8? I haven't seen it yet.
Not yet. I've been waiting for it. Time to dig. 7 cards here for Joe. A couple copies of Caracas, a Flooded Strand. Looks like a Volcanic Island. Another copy of Counterbalance. Nothing too exciting, it seems. Counterspell in there, too.
This is where Miracles is hilarious. You sometimes dig through time and just take some lands, and you're really happy about it.
I just like the fact that he's able to play Dig Through Time in the deck and clear the top of his deck for top. Now you can look at the top 3 cards and dealing click among the cards. Hydroblast 2. Also an Arid Mesa.
Hydroblast will do great. The only two way that so he has the ones covered with Divining Top. And with Hydroblast, he can counter the Young Pyromancers, which are the only 2s that really matter out of Will's deck. If you can counter all the Pyromancers, Delvers, and Swift Spears, Will probably just can't kill him.
Yeah, and Hydroblast is the lock on Sulfuric Vortex too. So he's basically got all roads covered now. Here's him in Dealing Click. Parshall drew a 1 mana spell, so Balance plus Top is the hardest of locks.
Yeah, all the 1 mana spells are going to get countered here.
Well, I think Joe may have wanted to target himself, not sure. And there's always a situation where I think maybe he wanted to target himself, but I think he may say, I don't want to target you and I'm not going to take anything. Just look at your hand and, yeah. Okay, it's all trash.
Yeah, when people play with Dealing Click, you do want to make sure that you ask them who they're targeting before you throw your hand down. And I don't think he'll take anything.
I don't think so either. Spin top. Probably going to float the 1 in there.
And Hydroblast is going to be the draw.
This is a Hydro, there's a Pyro, and there's a land. In for 3.
So he has a 1 on top of his deck. I mean, William's hand has 5 1s. Keeping floating a 1 on top of the deck seems pretty safe here.
For Joe, it's closing time now. He's exactly where he wants to be. He's got a counterspell in his hand. He's casting a Brainstorm. Yeah, and I think William knows it. Joe's just getting everything set up the way that he can. I wouldn't be surprised if he puts a 1 and a 2 back. He also has an Entreat that he can put back too to really accelerate things, but we're heading to a 3rd game.
It sure does look like it. Game 3, once again, will be harder for Joe. He will be on the draw. We saw game 1 be a real close one, actually. One you thought Joe might have had. Just ran out of answers. Didn't have really that card selection that Divining Top affords you. And was just able to loosen Top Deck War.
Yep, and William is going to pack it up because he knows he is locked out of this game. Joe Lossett's going to win game number 2 here over William Parshall. Miracles will tie things up here against Blue Red Delver, though William will be on the play for game 3.
Audiences everywhere appreciative for Will Parshall right there. That we got to move on to game 3.
Yeah, just he's beating that spot. There's no series of cards that he can draw to get out of that.
Well, if Joe just draws lands for the next 10 turns and he draws all his, Pyromancers, there's always that you can right, and that's, you do see a lot of times you can play toward that out. It exists. It's not very likely.
It's not a 0%er. What's as low as you can get without being a 0%er?
I mean, you can just say it's an epsilon. It's not relevant. You can talk about how many deviations off it is. You can use a lot of statistics terms to talk about what you're playing to.
Yeah, you're the math guy. That's what I got to use you for. I'm just going to say he's dead. That's not a technical.
Oh yeah.
That's not a technical term. It's not a math or statistical term. It's just my term. That's all. Going to shuffle up for game 3. Don't know how much is going to change. You see Joe's taking a look at things, but it looks like he's already happy with his config, which wouldn't surprise me because, look, he's probably playing against Blue Red Delver a ton, testing for the Grand Prix and probably this weekend too. So he's already got a configuration he's probably happy with. So I can't imagine much is going to change.
I think if you want to describe a really, really unlikely out, what you could do is you could use time. You could say, okay, if we played this game over and over, how many days would we have to play for until I won one of them? And we're in the years category here, which means it's probably not worth playing.
Probably not, yeah. In that instance, something horrible would have to happen for William to win it. But that's why he conceded. We'll get ready for a 3rd one. Already got 2 champions here this weekend. We're working our way towards one more, and it might actually be Mr. Mark Koenig. He's waiting in the finals with Death and Taxes right now.
Yeah, Mark Koenig, our #1 seed, 8-9, just undefeated through the Swiss.
Why
Didn't
lose?
Double draw in, just battled and
I
won.
love that. That's my favorite part.
Let's play Legacy. Let's win.
To be fair, given the newish system, it's not that new anymore, but seeding matters. being on the play first matters. Like being on the play with Death and Taxes, starting with a Vial on turn 1 on the play, that matters.
Well, the numbers were so close to the cutoff that I think Koenig could have known that he could play, and even with a loss he would be in. He could lose, then draw, so why not play for the 1 seed? And that's exactly what he did at 7-0, won his match, and just took the 1 seed for himself. 2-0 and then look at his top 8. 2-0 against David Long in the top 8. 2-0 against Ben Friedman in the top 4.
Very, very comfortable with the deck. That's to be sure. It's very this tournament is very reminiscent of when we watched Pierre Nystrom win with Death and Taxes, a European player who was here in the States, just kind of hanging out and came to an open series event. And, you know, after he won the tournament with Death and Taxes, first of all, you could tell that he's been playing it for a really long time and super skilled with it. But, you know, after the winners interview and we were closing up, he kind of hung around for a little bit and we were just like, what are you doing here? And he's just like, I don't know, just kind of in the area, wanted to play some Magic. It's like,
Yeah.
You play Death and Taxes? He's like, yeah, all the time, deck's great.
I mean, you see that with a lot of the European players. It's a very popular deck. Thomas Enevoldsen also taking down, I believe, one of the Legacy Opens with Death and Taxes.
He's been playing that deck for a really long time. Grand Prix champion too. Just did really well in an invitational with it too. It's really, really popular in Europe. And it's funny because whenever they come over here and play it, they always crush everyone in the Open Series with it, or just at the Grand Prix or anything. It's like, yeah, this deck's insane. It kind of has like a negative connotation because when you look at Death and Taxes, you always just see a bunch of white creatures and Vial and, you know, Flicker Wisp. Are you kidding?
Well, it's such a meta-gamed deck. And, you know, that's really the short of it, is that it does a great job of beating the blue decks of the format. But no, by itself, is it just this super powerful deck? No, you could build a deck to beat Death and Taxes if you needed to. That wouldn't, you know, maybe you wouldn't touch any of the combo decks of the format, and therein lies the problem. Yeah. But if you just needed to beat the white aggro deck, you could do that.
My favorite is just like the ways you could beat the white aggro deck are just like hilarious. Like, yeah, I drew a Cutting Spark Mage and he lost. Like,
right? No, it's yeah.
That's it. Cutting Spark Mage. I can't win. I didn't draw Mother of Runes. Scalding Tarn going to start things off here. William likely going to search up a copy of Volcanic Island.
Yeah, you know, is it Staticaster? Just name all sorts of standard cards. That'd be pretty good there.
Let's see if we're going to start with a cantrip or a creature. Looks like he's got a Swift Spear.
You know, you could even say, like, what if you just played some Abzan with some Siege Rhinos? Like, you might get Death and Taxes with them, okay?
You might actually get blue-red with that kind of deck, too. This blue-red Delver deck. I actually think it's possible.
You know, oh, look, it's like Hortling Outburst, Butcher of the Horde. Yeah. I don't know if they could deal with all of that.
This is a relic, going to take care of the land. Joe's on a plan similar to game number 1. Though, to be fair, William is on a plan that's similar to game number 1, too. He was able to get the job done with the Monastery Swift Spear. This is a Gataxian Probe. Trigger the Prowess, so we'll take a look here at Lossett's hand.
Well, one of the strengths of the blue-red Delver deck is that on the play, it has some draws that are very hard to answer. Monastery Swift Spear can be better than Goblin Guide without any of the drawback. And Joe's hand has some, you can exploit this hand pretty well.
Yeah, Joe's got a Pyroclasm. He's got Entreat the Angels, a Counterbalance, and a couple of lands there. A couple of white basic islands, of course, and then a Flooded Strand. So, not a bad hand, but not the best hand I've ever seen.
Yeah, he was hoping to maybe score a really good Pyroclasm here. That, of course, is not going to happen now that Will Parshall knows about the Pyroclasm. Maybe he'll get to stick a Counterbalance. We will see here. A pair of Pyroblasts, though, hiding out in Parshall's hand.
Seems unlikely now. There's a Delta. This is a Ponder. Trigger.
Here's our 3-4 on turn 2. It's a 1. This is where Monastery Swift Spear, I think, is better than anyone thought. You know, coming off the Khans of Tarkir spoiler, there was some noise about Treasure Cruise. Like, hey, can you play this in Legacy? But Swift Spear was off the radar.
No, that's my favorite part, like, just about when you look at spoilers and, you know, the cards that leap off the page at you are just like, you know, oh, the fetch lands are back. Oh, my gosh. And Siege Rhino, you got to be kidding me. This is the best card I've ever seen. And Savage Knuckleblade has all these abilities. And you mentioned it with Treasure Cruise and Dig Through Time to a lesser extent. People were like, this card's good, you know, if you can play it for 1 blue, but I don't know if you can actually do that. But Swift Spear was a card where no one was like, this card's insane. You know, this card's going to be legacy playable, legacy staple in one of the best decks. No one said that.
I mean, I think it goes back when you look at a spoiler, you just have to look, okay, let me get a list of all the cards that cost 1. I need to read all of them. Maybe Like, in Legacy, because that's where you start.
Yeah.
You know, maybe one of them's good.
Or cards that can potentially cost 1, like the Cruise.
Sure. Yeah, it costs like 1 with an asterisk next to it.
Relic will go active. I mean, this could just be... If things line up here for William, this could just be a Monastery Swiftspire, like, playing the role of a Delver of Secrets-esque draw here.
If you can keep dealing 3 a turn with it, it's like the Delver already flipped. You do see, though, Relic of Progenitus doing a great job of keeping Will off Treasure Cruise, which is in his hand once again.
Counterbalance. I have a feeling William's going to sacrifice that Delta and try to Red Blast it. Just don't think that's a thing that he can let be in play, as we saw last game.
Days
too
not
good.
there.
Yeah, it's just too good. You can't ignore it.
No, when those resolve, it's bad for Will. As we saw last game, I mean, his deck does not have a lot of diversity of mana cost in it. Because of that, even without a Divine Tap, this card can blind counter a lot of things.
Yeah, again, 2 Pyroblasts over there, so... I like the play of just firing one off, trying to get this thing off the table.
Now, what do you think of the line of Will could have Pyroblasted on his own turn, let it resolve? And I suppose then it could get countered.
Yeah, it
There's
could get
no
countered,
way.
yeah.
I was going to say to pump Swift Spear,
Yep.
but...
It's a touch too greedy for me.
Yeah, he actually had the daze there and opted not to daze it,
That
valuing
plays,
his lands.
That plays a little more risky because, you know, what do you value higher? Like, you know, having your lands in play, or do you value Pyroblast higher? It's clear that he values days and having his lands in play. So maybe he likes having that as a blue card for Force of Will too.
Yeah. And one thing I like is that with all these cantrips, Will is getting close to being able to cast Treasure Cruise despite Relic of Progenitus.
Yeah. You throw a fetch land in there too?
Absolutely.
And there are 3 cards in the graveyard right now. Ponder will be card number 4. Ponder's done resolving. Fetch land can be in card number 5. Maybe you throw a Gataxian Probe in the mix. That's card number 6. All of a sudden, you're drawing 3 cards, but it's just a more honest turn. Just an attack for 2.
And at first you'd want to say that he's going to play a Delver here, but this is terribly risky. He knows that there's a Pyroclasm in Joe's hand.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. How is he playing around that?
I mean, my assumption is that he has a Force of Will or double days or something.
I don't think he has either.
Or this is very, very bad news.
Yeah, it seems like he may have forgotten about the Pyroclasm, dropping a second creature into it. Well, let's back up here. He can daze the Pyroclasm, and it will save Monastery Swift Spear.
Yeah.
That's not great, but it does make it just a 1-for-1.
Actually, this play is probably better than we think. So he, quote, unquote, forgot about the Pyroclasm. So the line that he could be setting up here that I actually think is really creative is Joe plays the Pyroclasm, right?
Sure.
William dazes it. That's a card in the graveyard. Delver dies. That's a card in the graveyard. That's 5 in the
He's
graveyard.
setting up for the Treasure
Sets up
Cruise.
for a Treasure Cruise. And Joe will pay for the days with the mana so that he can't bust Relic. Because he's already played his land for the turn.
Exactly.
So if that's the line he's setting up, I like that a lot.
Which he has to daze here then. He can't just bin the team. See daze at the front.
Yeah.
There you go.
I like this.
Prowess up to a 2/3. Swift Spear will survive, but you're right. Card number 4 in the graveyard. Card number 5. He has a fetch land on top. That's card number 6. And it can be 7/8 and a Treasure Cruise.
Yeah, if this is what he's setting up the whole time, I absolutely love this line. Because it's so hard to resolve a Treasure Cruise, but resolving a Treasure Cruise is such a big deal.
Last draw there, it was not
It's not
the
a
fetch
fetch?
land. It was a lightning bolt. So fetch must be the 3rd card down from the ponder.
Interesting.
Yeah, if it was the fetch, you're absolutely right, though. He could just Treasure Cruise right now.
Bolt you.
Getting in damage while he can, bolt and prowess.
And Joe's light toll's pretty low, by the way.
Yeah, that's going to do 10. That's going to mean 8.
This is pretty healthy.
Now, he knows about a fetch land on top of the deck, so he could have actually started this turn with Brainstorm. He could have Brainstormed into the fetch land, played fetch land, cracked it, and then treasure cruised, and that would have been 7 cards to the graveyard because he would have added the fetch land and the brainstorm.
Yeah.
I mean, as it is, the treasure cruise is probably still safe unless Joe just cracks the relic right now, in which case Will's not going to ever get this treasure cruise.
And to be fair, removing 1 card might just gum everything up.
It's not bad.
And you and I are putting a pretty high priority on resolving a treasure cruise, but I think if you have the opportunity to resolve one of those, which now he does not, as Joe is taking care of business here with the relic, you know, chances of winning the game probably get a little bit higher. Terminus the draw. Ugh. There's a land.
If only he could have, if only he had the time to relic on Will's upkeep.
Yeah. Here's a brainstorm. I actually kind of like blasting this. Yeah.
Yeah, let's take away his outs right now.
I know a lot of people just like to let brainstorm resolve, and then I'll just kind of what comes after that.
You
We
have to-
oftentimes say that brainstorm's the best card legacy.
Yeah, you
right?
have to gauge how much they're digging.
Yeah.
And Will just keeping Joe off balance as the Swift Spear continues to chip away.
I just do not like this matchup for Miracles unless they have something really dedicated. It's like, you know, when we were in Oakland, we watched Glenn Jones play against Joe in the quarterfinals. It's just the entire time it's like, man, this matchup just feels really, really tough. Miracles is just so off balance the entire time, especially when they don't have a top.
Yeah, it's hard. I think it seems fine. It's not a matchup I'd want to play against every round with Miracles. You know, game 1, for example, was pretty close. It went in Will's favor. Game 2 was pretty decisive in Joe's favor. And we're having another close game 3. On the other hand, when Delver wins, it's often close. So it does seem like when he's on the play, Will does have the advantage.
I mean, Miracles can definitely win. I mean, we saw Joe win last game. You know, he established topless counterbalance and, you know, just answer the things that William did, and then he locked him out of the game. So he can definitely win, but it feels pretty tough.
These games certainly have been tough. He's at the mercy of his top decks, and he doesn't have much time.
Well, that's big. That is big, big, big. There's a top. Spin that. Can't spin it fast enough.
Gets to go 3 deeper. Can he find something? Either a removal spell or a brainstorm. Brainstorm could set up one of these Terminus. But all that takes another turn, and Joe's at 6. Just isn't that much time. You see he's sitting there on the top cards there, a Pyroblast, a Brainstorm, another Terminus. He's just going to put Terminus on top of his deck. So during Will's turn, he can now Terminus.
Yep. See if Will has anything he wants to do here. He's going to sacrifice his fetch land, go down to 15, dig a land out of his deck, clear things from the brainstorm here.
Yeah, did just Brainstorm last turn. One thing Joe has to be careful of is it's not just the Monastery Swift Spear he has to deal with. Will does have a copy of Sulfuric Vortex in his hand, which has a really low life total.
Yep.
He has a blast in his hand, but I believe it's the wrong, or on top of his deck rather, but I believe it's the wrong color blast. Maybe he has Counterspell though. We'll see.
It's interesting because there are a lot of different things Will has to play around, like on this board. You know, it's just, all right, Joe has 3 mana available. One of them is white, so okay, Terminus is on the radar. He has red mana available. Blast is on the radar. Here's a Brainstorm. He's got a top in play, and he can draw a card, so Miracles are on the radar. So here's a Brainstorm.
And this is on Joe's turn, right?
Yeah, this is on Joe's end step.
I'm a little surprised to see him Brainstorm here as opposed to during his own turn. His hand was just Sulfuric Vortex, so it's not like he needs to improve on his hand very much.
A couple of cards I'll have to go back here in just a moment. I'm a touch surprised. 2 cards are back.
Yeah, gets a young Pyromancer off it though, and that's gonna be pretty good.
Draw step, force, blue cards. Don't think so. I see 2 reds.
Pyromancer and Sulfuric Vortex, so Force not helpful right there. He'll go straight for the Vortex.
Yeah, you want to play this now because you want to trigger prowess. You can run yourself into something bad here, but I like actually doing this now because, you know, if you do it in the attack step, like if you do it after, you could get clicked, and that could go bad.
Sure.
So
Click could come into play, block, Swift Spear, take your
take your Vortex, yeah. That's
really wreck things.
Really bad.
Joe has an answer for the Swift Spear, but this Vortex is a problem. Joe's hand looks to be full of white Miracles.
Yeah, he needs a blue blast.
He has a red one.
Draw top.
Joe going to 4, I believe. Get confirmation there.
Yeah. The Vortex is Williams, so he does have to remember the trigger there. So we'll see what happens as far as remembering the trigger in Sulfuric Vortex.
Yeah, it depends on the timing of it, whether
Yeah.
or not, you know.
You can see the players talking back and forth here with the judge about what happens here, which is, to be fair, this is pretty crucial. And if you did remember, because Joe now has cast a top, so we're clearly in his first main phase. So.
Yeah, and this is a judge ruling on how much time Joe gave. You know, you can't just, like, if I say go, you can't just immediately draw a card and say, hey,
Yeah.
I'll keep silver.
Yeah.
Like,
Sorry, dude, we're in my draw step. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Gonna spin the top here. Couple of cards back. Yeah, it's ruled as a mistrigger. What do we have here? Brainstorm. Get a little deeper in the deck. So 1 and 2 and 3. 2 cards are going to go back. Top among those cards. No
So
blue blast yet, though.
the mistrigger will give Joe an extra turn. He can set up for maybe just an entreat. It's close, though. I mean, it's not really what he wants to set up for. You know, all it takes is a counterspell from Will to stop that. But Lossett does not have many options.
Arid Mesa. Top. Arid Mesa will give him a reshuffle.
Yeah,
Pass
so
the turn.
does he want to draw the entreat or does he want the reshuffle? We'll see here.
Vortex on Williams' side. So he will have to take 2. Yes. He's got to remember his triggers with his own effects with the Vortex. And due to the trigger rules and the policy there, you know, it's your card. You got to remember those triggers. So he's down to 14 with a set at 6. Actually 13, excuse me. Here's a young pyromancer. I'll see if this resolves.
Yeah, Joe spinning top here. Does he want these cards? He does have some miracles on top. Yeah, it looks like they'll be just fine.
Entreat, perhaps?
Yeah.
Yep, 2 damage will come across from the Vortex. Joe's going to go to 4.
He actually takes a land here. It looks like he's setting up to entreat on Parshall's turn. Remember, Joe doesn't have very many white mana sources, actually. If he wants to entreat, he will have to shuffle away his divining top.
Well, here's the problem. I'm curious if that Air Mesa is in play, which I don't think it is. And if you look at his lands, he has a Tundra and not any other white mana.
Yeah. All right, so maybe the Mesas will get...
Okay, it is in play.
Okay,
Got
so
it.
it's in play.
Yeah.
But I mean, if he wants a second white, he has to draw the card, reveal and treat the angels, and that'll trigger Miracle. So he can then go fetch for the second white mana with Arid Mesa, but it means he'll shuffle away his divining top, and he's not in the clear just yet. I mean, he's then risking just losing a Force of Will War to Parshall, and then being left without divining top.
Yep. Parshall looking for the Oracle text in a card here.
That said, Joe needs to move real quick. He's at 4.
Yep. I mean, Joe does have a copy of Entreat the Angels in his hand. The question is, does he have a copy of Entreat the Angels on the top of his deck? And William is checking the Oracle for the card in question, which is Entreat the Angels.
And I think this may go for Will. So he had a Force of Will in hand. He went 2 turns without drawing a blue card, though. So if Joe goes for Entreat the Angels, Will have the Force of Will, but he won't have the blue card.
Won't have 5 land either.
Well, had he played a land last turn, he would have 5 land here.
Yep.
Which means, okay, do you want to play to hard cast it, or do you want to play to maybe brainstorm a land away? Not playing the land may end up costing Will here.
Yeah, you can tell. I think he realized that maybe he's made a bit of a mistake. Oh, this is not good. That's got to be entreat. Yep.
Now, if you're Will, you almost just... So he didn't attack here. Why don't you play around and treat the Angels?
Yeah, it's just, this is a situation where you just can't play around and treat, you know? And now Lossett's going to be able to miracle this on the end of Parshall's turn.
And that's for 20 power of Angels, or
I mean, some number.
Some number that's bigger than 11.
Yep. Gonna do it for 3 of them to play around Spell Pierce and Daze and all that stuff, and that is going to do it. Joe Lossett is going to win this match over William Parshall. 2-1. He would end it at 1 life. Miracles is going to move on to the finals, and we are going to have a battle of streamers here in the finals of our Legacy Open.